Okay, we are going to go over the Virginia plan. So I'm going to read this to you and then I'm going to go over the questions with you. So this says, we propose that we drastically, so very much so, revise the Articles of Confederation. Here's our current government structure under the Articles. So, in the original, after the United States won the war, they have this one branch of government, the legislative branch. So, here's what the legislative branch can do each state gets one vote. Congress is able to make laws, but it does not enforce them. Congress is unable to directly tax the citizens, which means they can't collect money. They can't make sure everyone follows the laws. So, that's going to be really tricky. So, in the Virginia plan, there are three branches of government. So there's the legislative. Congress has the power to make laws, including law taxing citizens. Um, there will be an upper house and a lower house. Today we know that as the Senate and the House of Representatives. The lower house would be elected by the people. The upper house would be elected by the lower house, and states with larger populations would get more representatives. So if your state has more people, you represent more people, you're going to get more representatives in the government. They would also have a judicial branch, which would have the power to interpret laws and decide what is lawful and what is not. So judges and court system. And then the third branch of government they're proposing is an executive. So have a president to enforce the laws. So they're making sure that the states are following the rules and the state's leaders are following the rules. So the president is chosen by the legislative branch. Presidents can serve, and it says blank number of years because I'm going to ask you that question later. Keep in mind that now we elect the president, but this is just the plan that was proposed at the time in 1787 at the Constitutional Convention. So it's going to look really similar to our government today, but it's not exactly going to be. It's not exactly going to match up. So another thing are checks and balances. So in their new system of government they're proposing is they say the laws can be vetoed or canceled by a council composed of judges and the president. So they can make sure that each branch, the legislative, the judicial, and the executive, do not get too powerful. All right, so this is what I gave you to read, and then you have to go over and you have to do these questions. Now you'll see them in journal form, but this is just on my document. So number one, what is the one branch of government in the original Constitution, the Articles of Confederation? So if you go back and look, what was that one branch of government that our country originally had? And then when you're doing this in your journal, just do a 1, and then you just can tell me the branch, okay? Number 2, what are the 3 branches that we went over proposed? What are the 3 proposed branches of government in the new Virginia plan? So below, on the new plan, what were those 3 called? Number 3, what is the purpose of checks and balances? Now, if you look back here, it says Congress's laws can be vetoed, canceled by a council composed of judges and the president. So basically what that means is if the legislative branch passes a law that the other 2 branches do not agree with, under this plan they can veto it. So they can send it back and it won't pass as a law for the United States. So those purposes of the checks and balances are so that one branch does not get too powerful. Number 4, in the proposed judicial branch, judges are to interpret the laws. So let's look at this word right here. With your prior knowledge of a judge, what does interpret mean? So I want you to think about in a court, what does a judge do? I just want you to tell me what your prior knowledge is. If I say the judge is going to interpret the laws, what are they deciding? Number 5, what is the purpose of the executive branch? So again, if you go back here and you look at executive branch, they have their purposes listed right under the picture. For example, the purpose of the judicial branch is they have the power to interpret the laws. What's the purpose of the executive branch? Okay, number 6, I need your opinion. This says under the executive branch, it says that presidents will serve blank years and that you will get to decide. Some people argue presidents should be allowed to have longer terms so they can get more done, get more experience, and make more change. Others argue it is dangerous to have a president in power for too many years because it gives too much power to the executive branch. In our country today, a president's going to serve for 4 years and then they can run again to serve another 4-year term if they're reelected. So how many years would you, if you were at the Constitutional Convention deciding this, how long would you have a president stay in power, and what is your reasoning? You can go ahead and pause the video now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to the James Madison reading and those questions. So if you want to pause and work on this for a little bit, that's good. But right now, I'm going to move on to the James Madison article. So James Madison is considered the father of the Constitution. After winning independence from England, America's early days were rocky ones, so it was a hard time. The national government set up by the Articles of Confederation was very weak. It could make the laws and rules, it could not, however, make the states follow them. Each of the 13 states acted almost like an independent country. Each state had its own currency, which means money. Each state had its own set of laws. The states weren't working together for the good of the nation, so they bickered or argued constantly. No one could agree which states would pay for the Revolutionary War. The national government could not collect taxes from the states, so that means they couldn't collect things for the army, they couldn't collect taxes for any kind of public works. The state governments were simply too strong. National leaders like George Washington worried out loud. The national government was little more than the shadow without substance, he said. So meaning the national government is kind of fading away, and really the states just have the power. Things got so bad that the states finally agreed to take action. A man from Virginia named James Madison led the way. He called for the Constitutional Convention. Men from all 13 states met at the convention in Philadelphia in 1787 to write the Constitution. The document would create a new national government. Washington was there. Other important leaders like Alexander Hamilton and Ben Franklin also came. Madison arrived at the convention armed with a plan. Because Madison was from Virginia, he called it the Virginia Plan. Madison's plan argued that each state's votes in Congress should be based on the number of people living in that state. Before, each state got one vote no matter how big or small it was or how many people lived there. Meaning if you were a small state and you represented fewer people, your vote could cancel out a state that represented a lot more people, which a lot of people did not think was fair. Not everyone agreed with Madison's ideas. The delegates at the convention asked for many compromises. Without them, they wouldn't sign a final draft of the Constitution. These compromises were difficult to reach. In the end, they helped strengthen our government. Still, Madison's Virginia plan was very important. For all his work, James Madison is known today as the father of the Constitution. Now, you need to write me 2 written responses. First one is, what is one example in the passage of problems between the state government and the national government? So when we say states, we're talking about Virginia, we're talking about Maryland, we're talking about North Carolina, the states that are the states that used to be colonies. So what are some problems that they were having between the United States as a whole country and as a nation? Number 2, based on the passage, why would Madison be known as the father of the Constitution? So what did he do that makes him today the father of the Constitution? Again, these 2 questions are in your journal, so number them 1, number them 2, and give me an answer. And please email me if you have any other questions. These are your only 2 assignments for the week as long as you finish Shays Rebellion. So as long as you get these submitted, you should be all set.